With the help of loader functions, we are able to read the data from the backend REST APIs. In the similar lines, React router library, they also have another concept with the name action. For example, under the contact path, I can try to invoke a property with the name action. To this action, I can pass an action function using which I can submit the data to the backend REST APIs. Inside real applications, we're going to have all type of scenarios like reading the data, sending the data to the backend. That's why we should also focus on understanding about these action functions as well. Before we try to implement an action function which is going to help us to save the data into the database, first we need to make sure to build a REST API on the backend side which is going to accept the data from my UI application. That's why inside this lecture, let's focus on building a new REST API on the backend side. I'm going to delete these action code changes because I'm getting a compilation error. Let me save this and go to the backend. Inside the backend, as of now, we have only a single REST API under the product controller class. Inside the database as well, we have only a single table with the name products. As a next step, we want to save the data that is going to be submitted by the end user from this contact as space. The end user can provide name, email, mobile number, and message details. All these details eventually I want to save into the database. That's why I need to first create a database table followed by all the supporting components like entity, DTOs, repository interface, and towards the end, we can build a new REST API. I'm going to create a new table inside my EasyStore database. Let me click on this new and select this query console. If you're not using IntelliJ Ultimate, please use the SQL Electron to execute the statements. I'll paste an SQL statement here. With the help of this SQL statement, I'm trying to create a table with the name contacts. And this contacts table, it is going to have contact ID column, which is going to act as a primary key, followed by name, email, mobile number, message. After the message, we are going to have some audit related columns like created at, created by, updated at, and updated by. I'm going to execute this SQL statement. Once the statement is executed, I can confirm whether the table is created. Yes, the table is created. I will also mention this SQL script inside the schema.sql as well. Let me open schema.sql, which is present under the resources SQL folder. Inside this, as of now, we have scripts related to the products table. Next to them, I'm going to mention the scripts related to the contacts table for your reference. Please get these scripts from the GitHub repo and execute them inside your local database as well. Once the table is created, as a next step, I want to generate the entity and repository interface. Since I'm using IntelliJ Ultimate, it is going to be very easy for me. In case if you're not using IntelliJ Ultimate, you can take the code present inside the GitHub repo as a reference and accordingly you can create the JPA entity. So let me go to database and here I'm going to right click on this contact and I'll select these create JPA entities from database. As soon as I select this, I'm going to get some options here. The package name will be com.easybytes.easystore.entity and the class name will be contact. There won't be any parent. For the contact ID, which is a primary column, I want to follow a ID generation strategy of identity. When we are using this identity strategy, the ID value is going to be managed by the database itself. We don't have to generate the IDs manually. Everything is going to take care by the MySQL database. I'm good with all these details. I can click on this OK button. Since I have to enter the class name manually, let me type contact and click on this OK button. And within few seconds, I got a new contact entity class. All the details here should be correct. I don't have to re-verify them one more time. In case if you are interested, you can explore all the code that is generated here. I'm not trying to discuss in detail about this entity class because we already discussed about entity classes in the previous sections. After the entity class, I want to generate the repository interface, which is going to help me to interact with the contacts table. Let me go to the repository package. Under the repository package, as of now, I have product repository interface. I'm going to copy this and paste it again, but this time I'll rename this to contact repository. Let me click on this OK. And inside this interface, instead of mentioning the product here, I should mention the contact entity because we want this repository interface to deal with the contacts table. After defining the repository and entity, as a next step, we should also create a DTO class. Let me go to DTO package. Here we have the products DTO class. I'm going to copy the same again. Let me rename this to contact DTO and press OK. Here I have all the fields related to the products table, but instead I want to maintain the fields related to the contacts table. Let me go to the contact entity and I can try to copy all these information one by one. After the ID, name is fine. After the name, we need to make sure to mention email. After the email, I'm going to copy the mobile number, and after the mobile number, I'm going to copy the message. After copying the message, we can get rid of this image URL and created at. In fact, I don't need to mention ID as well here because my UI, it is going to send only 4 fields like name, email, mobile number, and message. That's why mentioning these 4 fields should be fine. Maybe the name also I can try to mention it as contact request DTO. This name is going to make more sense. That's why I'm trying to change this. After defining this DTO, we can go to the service package. Inside the service package, first we need to create an interface followed by an implementation class. Let me copy this iProduct service into the service package and I'm going to rename this to iContact service. Inside this interface, I'm going to create an abstract method with the name saveContact, which is going to accept contact request DTO as an input, and it is also going to return Boolean value as an output, confirming whether the save operation is completed or not. Now let's try to create an implementation class for this interface. I will try to copy the implementation class of service IMPL and paste it here again. Let me rename this to contact service IMPL. Inside this class, first we need to make sure we are implementing iContact service, followed by here instead of product repository, we need to make sure to use contact repository. Since I have created the interface with the wrong name, let me open the same and here it should be only contact repository. Let me change the file name as well, followed by I'm going to correct here. Let me type contact repository. The variable name also I'm going to change contact repository. Next, I will get rid of this override method, followed by I'm going to generate a overrided method with the name saveContact. Let me click on this OK, which is going to generate me a new overrided method with the default logic of returning false. First, I'll try to change the logic inside this private method. Inside this private method, we're trying to convert an entity class to DTO, but this time we want to convert a DTO to entity class. So that's why I'll try to rename this method to transform to entity. And the input for this method will be contact request DTO, and the output from this method will be contact entity class object. So let me select this contact, followed by I'm going to create a new object of contact by using this new operator. And using this bean utils.copy properties method, I'm going to copy all the properties from the contact request DTO to contact entity object. And we don't have to populate any ID because the database is going to take care of creating the contact ID value, which is the primary key in our table. Towards the end, I need to make sure I'm returning the contact object. Now, inside the saveContact method, we can try to write the actual logic. First, I need to invoke the transform to entity method by sending this contact request DTO as the input. The output from this method I'm going to catch with the contact variable, followed by inside this contact, I should also populate what is the created date and who is creating this record. So let me type set created at. To this method, I'm going to pass the current date and time with the help of instant.now method. Next, I'm going to invoke set created by, and to this, I'll try to send the name details that I have received inside the contact request DTO. So let me invoke get name method. The same details will be saved into this created by column. Once we populate all the details inside the contact entity, we can provide this object to the Spring Data JPA framework. How to do that? It's very easy. With the help of this contact repository interface, we need to invoke the save method. To this save method, we need to pass the object of contact entity class, and this save method, which is available inside the CRUD repository interface, it is going to take care of creating a new record inside the database. I don't have to generate any insert SQL statement to insert the new record. Everything is going to take care by the Spring Data API. Let me save these changes, followed by I'll try to surround this entire code using try block followed by catch block. From the catch block, I'm going to return false, which confirms that the saving operation is not successful. Otherwise, I'll try to return true value. So towards the end, I can simply return true. So let me format this code, followed by we can try to create a controller class. Let me go to the controller package. Inside the controller package only, we are going to write the REST API related logic. I'm going to copy this product control and paste it again. But this time, the controller class I'm going to mention as contact controller. On top of this contacts controller, I'm going to mention the API name as API/v1/contacts. Next, we can remove this cross-origin related comment, followed by instead of iProductService, we need to inject iContactService. Let me change the variable name to iContactService. Here, instead of get mapping, we need to mention add to post mapping because we're going to create a brand new record inside the database. That's why we need to use HTTP post method. I'll change this method name to save contact, and I'll get rid of this throws interrupted exception. This REST API method, it should accept the contact request DTO object as an input parameter. Because when we try to send this name, email, mobile number, and message information from the UI, behind the scenes, the Spring Boot framework, it is automatically going to convert those details into this object, because on the UI side also, we are going to send the data by using the same variable names like name, email, mobile number, and message. Apart from mentioning these contact request DTO as an input parameter, you should also make sure to mention an annotation just before this input parameter. The annotation is at request body. When an UI application is going to send the data with the help of HTTP protocol, it is going to send a lot of information, like inside the headers, it can send some information, and the actual payload it is going to send inside the HTTP body. Since we are not interested around the headers and we are only looking to read the actual payload data inside the request, we need to make sure to use this annotation at the request body. We're going to spend more details in the upcoming sections exploring about all these annotations like at request body. Similarly, we have at response body as well. All of them we're going to discuss in detail. For now, I'm assuming you are clear about the purpose of using this at request body here. After mentioning this annotation, we can use iContactService variable, and with the same, we can invoke the save contact method. And to this save contact method, we can pass whatever data that we have received. And the output from this method will be always a Boolean. That's why let me catch the output as Boolean is saved. And towards the end, I'm going to write an if and else statements. If the data is saved, I'm going to return a string value saying that request processed successfully. Otherwise, I'm going to return an error occurred, please try again or contact dev team. Since we are returning the string, here the return type of the method also should be updated with the string. That is going to resolve the compilation problems. I'm assuming we are done with all the changes around building a brand new REST API on the backend. We'll try to integrate these REST API with the UI application. And if we are facing any issues, obviously we can debug and fix the code. But for now, we should be good. As of now, while building REST APIs, I'm not following a lot of standards. Like we need to perform validations. You need to do proper exception handling. You need to document your REST APIs. So all those standards I'm not following. But in the upcoming sections, I'll have some lectures focusing about all these standards, like how to perform validations, how to document REST APIs, and so on.